sustainable utilization of natural resources. It maintains the quality of grazing through the encouragement of diverse plants and grass species. It's an important strategy to reduce risk associated with climate change. It's slow. Okay. There must be a minute more. Okay. I think this is the summary of it. Transhumance provides social, cultural, religious, economic, and environmental goods and services that are important for the well-being of not only the transhuman communities, but for society and our planet as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being able to run down the presentation within the required given time. Let's give him one round of applause one more time. Okay? I'll now call on the next speaker, or the next presenter, Dr. Demajalo, Director General of National Agricultural Research Institute. He will be presenting on the dynamics of transhumance and its implication of agro-pastoral livelihoods. Dr. Jallo, you're welcome.
If I say next, is that the mic? Okay. What next? Next slide. Go back. So I came to explain for the person. Go back. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As Usman Sanyang said, my name is Demba B. Jallo. But for your information, I want to be very clear that I am a Gainako. I was almost born under the order of a cow. So this is not going to be an easy terrain because I have a message from the animals. Just like he presented, I also have a picture that I took yesterday. While President Barrow was inaugurating the Battle Highway, these animals were also crossing. And they asked me to tell him that let him also inaugurate our cattle tracks. So this is not going to be easy. We are so attached. Excuse me if I say we, because I'm a Fulani also. We are so attached to these animals that we name our people after them. You have Gael, you have Ngari, you have Nyalel. You know, the educated people, we call our uncles cow. So you see how we are attached to these animals. Now that's it. This is going to be this is my topic. I was asked to twist it a little bit, so I twisted it because this is a continental issue. So that's why I say in the Sudan-Sahel zone. Now, next slide, please. Who is there? Okay, thank you. This is going to be the outline of my presentation, an introduction. The issue is what the outsiders see about transwomen, not the Fulani themselves. What is the perspective of these herders? There's a new form, and that is the problem, to my own understanding. So it's not the usual so goes on and so goes on. We will address the elephant in the next slide, please. So basically, this is the transhuman belt of Africa. Now, it represents one of the last remaining intact wilderness in the world. Its bioclimate and agroecological zone is fantastic. It is savanna and savanna forest transition. Approximately 7.7 million square kilometers of the continent. It takes that one. And it is rich in species and is a priority for wildlife conservation. Maudo is here. Next slide, please. Now, before we go, we have to attempt to define some terminologies because there is no definition. So next slide, please. Now, nomadism keywords when you are talking about transhuman. Nomadism, as you can see on the board, is a way of life of people who live continually on the same place but move cyclically or periodically with their livestock. Now, this is true nomads. They follow irregular of movement. This is a fact. They do not imply unrestricted and directed wandering. No, it's directed. The real Fullerman's cattle knows where to stop. You stop in this spot this year, the next year, when you come back, it will stop there. No. They know. I agree with Alpha, who said we communicate with Adam. That's true. Next slide, please. Now, pastoralism. This is a life where more than half of the family's income is derived from livestock production. It is characterized by movement of livestock over long or sometimes short distances. And it's an adoptive practice. I think all the speakers said that. Next slide, please. All the definitions, I think we have to go. You may have a chance to get this, please. What is important is this point. The issue of condition transhuman. Call it avoided transhuman. People are conditioned to move because there are a lot of firearms in Africa. So the Fulanis, as a survival method for them to survive their family and their cows, they move sometimes. And then in other parts of the world, they call them all kinds of names. Let's go, please. Next slide. Now, before transhuman, like before domestication, what was the problem? Equilibrium was guaranteed. Everything was perfect. What are the issues now? The issues are non-compliance. I think most of the speakers made it here. Non-compliance to customs. There were rules for this activity. Policy enforcement failure, national and regional, there are some failures. Harmonization of policies. We need to harmonize policies regionally. The timber people, when I was going to primary school, we loved the word lumberjackers. No, they are a problem. There's a lot of genocide of trees happening in this country. I call it tree land cleansing. It's just like ethnic cleansing. We are cleansing the trees. We are cleansing the forest. And also some demographic changes. Estate agents are coming and encroaching into pastoral lands and other things. These are the issues, not the transhuman itself. Next slide, please. How do outsiders see this practice of transhuman? They think that mobile livestock are seen to work against the interests of the state because the state cannot collect enough revenue because they are moving and they think the Fulas are smart. That's how they see us. When it's time for revenue collection, they move. So for the state, we are, like that. Mobile people lack attachment to places, but we are attached to our animals. That's how outsiders see us. They don't even have villages. Or probably that's why we have a lot of Sare, Musa, Sare, this. Anyway, next please. Afforestation programs are also affected. EBA is trying to plant trees. Animals are destroying the trees. Borders with landlocked countries with large pastoral herds have experienced conflict between communities. That's also another fact. Next slide, please. The forest also is thin. In fact, in some literature, they call them abusers of forest. Abuse and move. They abuse the forest. Also increased conflicts between farmers, herders, and settled communities. Some can be lost, some can be stolen, and so and so. Next slide, please. Now, one reason why we are blamed is because of bushfires. But this is a survival method. Sometimes they burn this thing so that the testy flies and the other things are not around. You have to understand the whole ecosystem, how it plays. Next, please. And this map, sorry, you can see, before that one, you can see bushfires in November, December, and so. I think this is in the Central African Republic. This is caused by these transhuman people. Next. And also, because of the testy flies, unfortunately, it happens also be the testy flies zone. So this movement has to happen. Next slide, you see the movement. Okay, before that. The perspective from the herders. Herders see it as a local knowledge system. And that they see also there is a scientific knowledge system in these two things. The herders see that it is rational to move animals. where grazing resources are distributed over large areas and low in productivity, it is uneconomical to stay in that place. You have to move. Scientifically, livestock mobility distribute grazing pressures. If you stay in the one place, you cause a lot of grazing. So scientifically, if you move, you distribute grazing pressures and so. Next, please. It's a wealth store. The herders see it as a store of wealth for them. Exchange of grazing access for manure. You know, animals move, they also drop manure, and then the whole system is replenished. This is a testimony from Nepal, that people are leaving their areas because there are no more animals now. Animals are dwindling. So we have to be a little bit careful. Next slide, please. But the new thing is what I was talking about. It's not the transhumance itself, it's the new players into the system. And this I call neo-pastoralists. And this phenomenon is gaining ground. Now, this is absentia herd owners. Sometimes you don't see them. They often bypass entrustment contracts with local pastoralists. Normally you contract people to do that. But these people, these new owners of animals, they bypass that system. They hire drovers or armed protection to move cattle into frontier zones, often crossing national boundaries and grazing communities. So they hire these people, and sometimes they arm them. Now, next slide, please. Now, they refer to us as all sort of names: Fulbe, Pol, Bororo, Wadebe, and all those kind of things. In Nigeria, they even call us Fulani extremists. So in places like Nigeria, they call them Fulani extremists. Extremism, you know what it means: violence and other things. Now, they even equate these cattle herders with Boko Haram. In fact, the figures that 63% of terror attacks and 88% of terror-related deaths in Nigeria were caused by these Fulani extremists. So that's the paradigm shift. That is the dynamic of transhuman. Next slide, please. Sometimes they call them Fulani militant. You see the kind of derogatory words that they are using. They are also well-armed who do not follow customary practices that dictates access to grazing land and provide mechanism for conflict mediation between herders and farmers. Sometimes they use this term, Christians versus Muslims. So these are the dynamics of transhuman. Well, it's transhuman they are referring to actually. They say it's Christian versus Muslim. We have seen it. We have seen in Mali recently how this thing, in Burkina Faso, for example, those are the hotspots. Chad, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, and so. Next slide, please. Now, in Nigeria, pastoral conflict was estimated to be 6 times more deadly than Boko Haram in 2018. And in Senegal, in the Senegambia region here, these cattle rustlers is another issue. I call them transnational criminals. They are criminals because they want to spoil our name. Excuse me if I say our, because I'm a Fulani. The Senegalese government value this at $2 billion per year because of this kind of criminal activity going on around. So this is what the reason why is because there is a lot of circulation of illicit weapons in our continent, especially in the savannah area. Next slide, please. Now, this is the crisscrossing of transhumans and so. In Central African Republic, it was recorded that 221 armed conflicts event between 2010 and 2017, and 1,227 deaths. Next slide, please. Now, who is the elephant in the room? Who are these livestock owners that are causing all this problem? First is urban elite, the big people in the urban areas. You all own land, you all own animals, but you don't want to be seen as owners of these animals. You don't want to follow the rules, the customary rules. Now, top military commands, they also have animals. Civil servants, they have animals. Corrupt officials, they use it as a money laundering avenue. You steal the money, you get the kickbacks, you go and buy animals. To be honest, this is it. And the ownership is often receive less attention. So these are the issues. Next slide, please. Now, the economists put it in the right way. It says, owning cattle is an excellent way of hiding ill-gotten wealth. They are referring to us. That's how they put it. African herders have been pushed into destitution and crime. That's how they put it. Next slide, please. Now, my recommendation. First, we need to assess the current forage production practices and economics of feed supplementation to better understand the seasonality of feed supply and diversity of forage production. This is what we need to do as a country. We also need to reconcile stock numbers in equilibrium with pasture productivity. I think Dr. Sise mentioned something like this. And regulate rotational and seasonal grazing more effectively. Now, it is also necessary to consolidate the inventory of pastoral land and conduct quality trend studies. Dr. Sise, I think you mentioned this also. We also have to decide where and with what intensity grazing is acceptable. If you don't do this, the thing will continue. There is also a need to determine the livestock carrying capacity, of different forest types in relation to the availability of forage and livestock numbers. Next, please. Efficient data sharing. This is a continental problem. It's not a problem of Gambia only. It's all of us. So we need to share data and so and so. We need to use the Internet of Things. We need to these three combine. And it requires multi-sector, holistic solutions that incorporate and apply aspects from all three realms to this landscape scale challenge that affects culture, nature, and commerce. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. One minute. Next slide. These are the references. Next slide. Now, free roaming animals. This is our research field in Yundum. These are very expensive materials. If you ask the Ministry of Finance to give us money to get this, they will complain. Now, animals went there and ate. This other animal was telling you don't know what you are doing. Just like provoking us. He or she peed in our farm just to tell us that she was there or he was there. And this is our route. Don't plant anything here. So these are very expensive material that if you ask the government, probably they will not understand the cost. They will complain. Next slide, please. You see? Next slide. This is the last slide. Just like Dr. Elisa. I also took this yesterday. Imagine, obstruction of traffic. Because we have invaded also their territories. So this other cow there was telling me, if you go, you tell the president that he should also inaugurate our cattle tracks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you very much for that presentation. Oh, well, we have time for question and answers. Please. One more, please. Just allow him to add. Okay, a minute. Please. Okay. No, just sharing this experience. Okay, because one thing that I'm also informed. They have multiple nationalities. One of my lecturers one of my lecturers in Niger informed us that he gave vaccine to his assistant to go and vaccine herders, only his own nationals. They went, he gave them 5 days to 2 months, to 2 weeks vaccines. They came back after 3 days, they said it is finished. He said, but how is this is finished? Okay, let's go. He arrived and he told them, I just want nationals of Niger Republic. And then what the herders did, they brought him Nigerian ID card, Chad ID card, Cameroon ID card, Niger ID card, pick one and return also the others. So that's also they have that advantage of having multiple nationalities. Thank you. Thank you very much for that contribution. I will now call on the next presenter, Dr. Bulli Sanyang, who will be presenting the director of AVCD project. He will be presenting on experiences from past initiatives in managing livestock in agricultural landscapes, the project experience. Doctor, you also have 8 minutes to do your presentation. Thank you, sir. Sorry. I have an observation, please. Probably we might not be able to finish the presentation today. So the few who might be left, please consider your font size. Those behind cannot see the slides clearly. So consider your font size, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to be invited to this type of workshop or conference or congress because it's an opportunity to meet people you have not met for so long. I am happy to meet Ustaz York here, who is now the chief of Nyanija. Project B project worked in Nyanija for 6 years, and his wife was one of our staff. Today he allowed me to talk to her after 7 years. I'm also happy to meet Ibu Jangha here, who is also staff of EBA project, and he was our staff for Nyanija. Quite a few of them, Serene So, many others, and this is an opportunity to meet them. So it's good to be alive and to be well. I've just been given this opportunity a few days ago, and I did not look at the title very much because it was on phone. So because the word Project B experience came in, I just copied the title of the Congress and said Project B experience. The presentation outline is to define transhumance, which has been done very well, the occurrence here in the Gambia, the effects on the migrants and on the host community, and the sustainable management from Project B experience, what we did. Next slide. For the definition, I don't need to give it. It's been given in the Congress announcement, and Dr. Abdul Sise and many others have given a good definition of what is meant by transhumance. So I will not go into that. The occurrence in the Gambia, from our experience, is in 2 periods. During the dry season, which everybody is talking about, the movement is in charge of feed and water. So a lot of animals coming from the dry areas, and in the Gambia, is coming from the upper river region and part of CRR down into the middle belt. They have seen the map of the Gambia. We call that area the loop, where south is Nyamina and the north is Nyanija and Upper Salu. This is the hub of transhumance, internal transhumance in the Gambia. And that is what is happening during the dry season. It is towards the middle belt. And part of eastern part of LRR, Pakaliba, is also affected. During the rainy season, we also have, some people don't want to call it transhumance, they say relocation. But people move from Nyanija and some of these areas into Senegal, northern Senegal or southern Senegal. This is because of lack of cropping land. All the land is under cultivation and animals have nowhere to graze. They have to move out to do some, for them to have somewhere to have grazing. And as I said, it's mainly outside of the Gambia, though some may migrate down to the lower river region and the Jaras, but mainly it's outside the Gambia. Next slide. Let's talk about the effects before we talk about Project B, what we have done. The effects are on the migrants and on the host community. For the migrant, they experience mortality, cattle mortality, mainly the young ones and the old ones. Trekking from maybe up to 200 kilometers can affect the weak ones, the young ones, and this is a loss to them. Disease also. When they get into the Nyaminas, this is high density vector-borne diseases like trips and many others. I don't need to mention them here. They get infected and they experience a lot of mortality because of that. In the areas they are coming up, there is low density of, let's say, trips infection or other tick-borne diseases. But in Nyamina, Nyanija, because of the vegetation, availability of stagnant water, and availability of trees, there are a lot of vector-borne diseases. And these people who are not used to a lot of veterinary services and animal care, they experience a lot of deaths because of that. However, the migrants, when they get to their host community, they generate a lot of income. People, cattle herders in upcountry, they have a lot of animals, and sometimes they don't even milk those animals. Even if when they milk, it is for local consumption, home consumption. There is very little for sale in those areas. But when they move down to this middle of the country, they go to areas where there are very few animals, and milk is becoming is a commodity. It's a very nutritive food, and it is highly there is demand. So they sell milk and they generate income, and they also sell some of their weak ones just to slaughter them before they know the end of the season. They have to go back. So they generate a lot of income from that. For the host community, these are the people who actually gain a lot, because, okay, the only damage to us as we experience is the environmental damage due to the felling of trees, cutting of, mostly on the vegetation. But there is increased availability of milk, so it improves the nutrition of the host community, and there is a lot of income, because these herders, these transhuman people, they actually have money. They are selling a lot of milk. They come with their families. They are selling milk, generating income, selling their cows. So they have a lot of money, which they now spend in the community. So this community benefit a lot from the spending power of the migrants. The most important aspect of it, from our point of view, is soil fertility. A lot of migrants, before, when they come, they go into the swampy areas in Nyanija. But because of our intervention, which we'll talk about, they now arrange with the local the herdsmen to come and stay within the homesteads. So imagine you have only 5 herds in a particular village. Now you have something like 50 herds coming down there, and 50 herds of maybe more than 200 in each herd. There will be thousands of animals. They will fertilize the soil in the homesteads on all the farmlands. And this is very important for increased crop yields, and of course increased income. And even the soil fertility itself is good for the soil for other issues. There are mutual benefits for all, and this is mainly the development of social relations. We have incidences where migrants coming, marrying from this community and going back, or there is a good social relationship between the herders and their hosts. This is very important, and it has established good relationship that some herders will know when they will go each year and where their host people will be. Next slide. Now we talk about the management of it. Oh, I missed something. This is my old slide. I think you did not. When it comes to the management of it, there are two approaches. You have to look at the migrants, where they come from. What should you do? We are told they are moving because of lack of water, lack of feed. So when it is lack of water, what Project B did was to provide sustainable water supply system. And this is the first project which has provided solar-powered boreholes with very good troughs in all the areas that we think the animals are coming into, especially in Nyanija. A small district, but we have provided nearly 5 or 4 solar-powered boreholes. And in Nyamina, it's also the same. So if you provide that, it is helping the herders who come not to go and compete with the community for water. So the animals have enough water, and we have also done the same provision of water supply in the origin where they are originating, in Sami, in Nyani. I remember we have in Sami area or in Nyani where the water is fresh water. We have cut the sandbanks to get slipways for water, fresh water from the river. So people who know Upper River region and Central River region, part of it, the slope is very steep. Animals cannot drink from the river. Though it's fresh water, they will see water. Some will even just jump in and try to swim, but they lose some of them. So we cut the river banks and create what we call slipways. And animals can walk down and drink a lot of water and go back. And this is really sustainable because it takes care of nearly all the herds in that area. They all go to one source. The other thing is about pasture development. We have created deferred grazing areas. Ibu Jangha told me in Nyanija now, the only vegetation cover you see our deferred grazing areas and the stock routes. We have created stock routes which are 100 meters width and they go as far as where the distance to the river. And these are the only vegetation which is seen in Nyanija. So it is a way of feeding, it's a way of environmental protection, and it's also climate. When you go to the host community, that's where we now come in. They are benefiting a lot, but because of the damage caused to their environment, they thought we can make what we call local convention. It's an agreement by laws set up by the communities, and it is made by the host community, but shared with the migrants. They go and sensitize them and tell them what they expect. Every year, when do you come for a migration? It has to be this period, and when you come, you have to stay with these families. And when they stay, you have to stay within the crop fields so that you manure our fields. And they make a lot of conditions. And these local conventions will have to define the roles and responsibility of each stakeholder, the migrants, the host community, and the local authorities. The chiefs are the witnesses or even the main signatory to this, and it goes up to the governor level. So once that is established, they all know what to do. And this can only be effective if there is proper sensitization for all stakeholders to know what is expected of them. Thank you very much. I think that's what
thank you very much, Doctor, for that brilliant presentation. We've all heard about the Project B experience. We hope the project will take note and try to see how best we can incorporate some of these experiences into the roadmap that we want to develop. We will take 10 minutes to go on a discussion session, 10 minutes, and I'm only taking 5 questions. So if you want to ask a question, just put up your hand. We take names. Yes, you are. Chief. Oh, sorry for definitely not giving him, how do I call it, the required round of applause. He did a very great job in the morning. Not so. Let's give him a round of applause for moderating in the morning. My co-moderator. Good job. Okay, I'm taking you first. Chief Jalo, huh?
Yes, thank you. This question will go to Bully.
Sorry, allow me to write the names first. Next questions. You are Amadou Balde. Barry, okay. Okay, wait, the mic will come to you. Next, 5. You are Momodu Jalo. 2 more questions. Yes, sir. You are Seku Dabo. Janko. Last. Okay, none? 4? Okay, yes, Dr. Chief.
Yes, as I said, my question will go to Bully.
Okay.
Of course, I cannot remember when was the last time Bully and I met, but we were in Amity School together in the 60s. My name is Bubu Jalo. Okay. I want just to ask him, you are installing facilities such as water and others for the animals to sort of stay. These are only for the internal migration within the country. But what about the Walankes who are coming all the way from Senegal? Do they have access to this, and what are the implications if there are any conflicts? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I accept you are my senior at Amity School in the early 60s, yeah. So we have not been seeing each other for quite some time.
Yes.
Yes, the facilities we provide is for the communities to manage. Let's say the boreholes and solar power boreholes we provide for Nyanija is for the community of Nyanija, but animals coming in can also benefit from it. But as I said, the local conventions will establish, outline what those people are expected. They pay something for each animal drinking within a month. So they will want to know whether the animals coming, well, if there are 1,000 animals, you pay $5 per animal. That's 5,000 dollars for 1 month. So if you stay 3 months, 5 months, they really generate a lot of revenue from that. And they are always compliant because they know this is this is to their advantage. And they know, like I think, is it Mr. Jallo who said the cattle are talking to the herdsmen? I cannot disagree. I know that is a fact because when it is time for migration, you cannot stop these animals. They will cut the ropes, they will go do anything and go. So they communicate with the herdsman that it's time for us to go. And the herdsman will tell his family, let us prepare to go. And the young boy in that family will go out and meet his Mandinka friends and say, Ntolojita hekol. And that's why the Mandinkas got that proverb. And this has become a very deep-rooted proverb which may go beyond what is about the transhumans. But it's a way of life, and we have to just manage it, and I like what you said. But the people who are coming, the host country, the host communities are benefiting a lot from these transhumans. There is no way you can stop it. We can only manage it to our advantage.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Chief, I hope your question is answered. Yes, Amadou, your suggestion, please.
Yes, I would like to suggest that we may take 10 minutes to interpret or just give a summary of what has been discussed in English for those who do not understand the language. As I understand, we have farmers here who may not have gone through or understood the presentations that were presented here.
Yeah, it's well noted. Actually, we've worked around that. We organized some of our forest officers as well as about staffs to sit close to some of our participants who cannot speak Maninka, who cannot speak rather English, rather, because we fear that if we try to translate, we might not be able to treat all the languages, please. Okay? Thank you. I'm Mamadou Jallo, please. Mamadou Jallo. Sir?
I would doubt if that is operational, because the ladies here say they only understand Wolof and they are not following up. Yes, no one is next to them. No, I think what he was saying is to make a short summary in the 2 or 3 local languages.
Okay, it's noted. We'll take care of that.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. maa ngi nuyu ñëpp maa ngi gërëm ñëpp maa ngi tudd Mamadou Diallo dëkk North Bank dëkk bu ñuy wax Kër Ngar Centre bari bu district. gannaaw bi ma nuyoo mbooloo mi dafa am xalaat bu tuuti rek boo xam ne moom la am ci suma xol bi ma bëggoon ko génnee pour ma àggee ko nit ñi ndax bi ma fi toogee ba léegi foog naa topic yi ñuy wax fii yëpp boo ko seetee agriculture la forestry la top yi si gën a bari topic yi li mu wër yëpp ci ñett yi lañ nekk te soo ko seetee North Bank Gambia bi yëpp soo ko seetee kër amul benn division boo xam ne jiitu na North Bank si wàllu agriculture te amul itam benn gox boo xam ne àllam jeex na bu raw North Bank kon loolu amul si Gambia bi te wax ji li mu war wóor yëpp itam dégg naa fi base RRR fu ne dégg naa ko waaye North Bank dégguma ko te suñ bàyyee xel ne xat bi nga xam ne moom lay génn nii ngelaw li nga xam ne moo xew ci àddina bi yëpp soo seetee lim def North Bank ci wàllu note amul benn gox boo xam ne def na ko si biir Gambia kon maa leen di xalaatal ne te maa leen a ñaan ne tamit mboolem NGO boo xam ne yaa ngi ci Gambia bi fii wala yaa ngi yëngatu si mbiri environnement bi pour luy yokk àll bi pour luy dëgëral àll bi ñaan naa la nga sa loxo daa dugg si North Bank because benn garab bi nga xam ne moo fa nekkoon ngelaw li dàmm na ko yëpp yii daanu na yii yëpp bànqaas yëpp doon na dara nekkaatu fa North Bank tey amuñ dara ñaar bii ñëw nii ñu bay duñ lekk mango surtout na ci wàllu note bi kon maa leen a ñaan ne projet bi na ngeen gëstu North Bank dafa dellu gannaaw trop surtout na ren lii rek moom laa leen bëggoon a gi wasalaam jërëjëf.
Jërëjëf Mamadou Jallow for that contribution. Next, Seiko Janko, please.
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much. I have a suggestion. I'm suggesting that there are some method that could not be applied in some areas, like West Coast region. We have scarcity of land. As one of the speaker was saying, there were encouragement of even community forests, and then allowing cattle stayer to grass there. It means that planting trees or regeneration will be highly affected. Therefore, I suggested that the transhuman activities could be differentiated. What can be applied in CRR, URR, could not be applied here in West Coast region. Right now, most of our women gardeners are not doing gardening because of animal intrusion. And even some farmers have even abandoned their farm because after sometimes when you caught an animal and you wanted to take a step, you are always barred not to go ahead, or the culprit will be charged an amount which he can just sit down and pay. So really, what could also be done is we have to identify certain area as a forest, as a community forest management concept, whereby certain villages can identify an area whereby that area could be only for grazing of animals. So, and the last thing is to be innovative, like Europeans and other Asians are doing. Thank you very much.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. My name is Alaji Sanya. I'm the Regional Forestry Officer for Lower River Region. I just want to add to Bully's presentation about one of the interventions that Project B was doing in the CRR North when I was a Regional Forestry Officer at Jarumekoto. That is, annually, Project B will partner with the Regional Forestry Office to also carry out some controlled early burning around some forest areas to make sure that these forests are protected from fire, where these animals can have enough feed to graze on. So that's what I just want to add to Bully's presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Alaji, for that. I will now call on the next round of presenters. I will next call on, yes, sir. Okay, can you please, Alaji, can you please pass the mic to him, please? Some might not be hearing you, though. Pass it.
Project B, no, not Project B. How's it called again? EBA is doing a lot of intervention, which we appreciate, for the benefit of the communities, which of course indirectly Gambia on a whole will benefit from. I would suggest with this issue of the transhumans and related more to feed and water. And of course, they have highlighted from the presentations in the morning how it impacts the natural vegetation. I would suggest ever to start looking into their project document, whether it will be at the time of the next project review, so that they would see how best they will start introducing improved varieties of grasses that would now be used or be provided to the farmers, especially those farmers who have large number of animals, be it the small ruminants or the other ones, so that at least it will be an enticing way of getting the farmers to confine themselves within areas so that this problem of the transhumans, which they have defined as whether it's the national or the international or whatever, can be confined, because the locals within themselves will be competing. To minimize the competition, maybe they will introduce these grass varieties so that at least some of the farms that are not being cultivated at a particular time could be utilized for those things. And that's my suggestion. I mean, I hope it makes sense.
A brilliant suggestion indeed. I want to hand over the mic to the project coordinator to say a word or two on that.
Well, we did not go that far, but that is EBA has already gotten into the idea of setting up enterprise that is going to utilize anthropogon grass. So this is currently only in LRR, and we have identified 5 communities. We're working with them in order to establish businesses around collection of anthropogon grass, preparing them for feed. So hopefully, I mean, of course, it's very preliminary, but when people realize that indeed you can go in and harvest and then prepare hay, prepare anything else on top of that, and then sell it into the market, it is possible that will encourage some more people to go into not only harvesting the naturally growing one, but also planting or sowing seeds of anthropogon. So that's for now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Danso. I think the project will take note and will pay a courtesy call to your end to also tap some experience as far as the new roadmap is concerned. It's very, very much important that we come up with something substantial as far as transhumance is concerned. Our next call on the next presenter, my able Deputy DG, Department of Agriculture, Mr. Sarian Jubate. Can you give him a round of applause, please? Dr. Jubate, Mr. Jubate, please. He will be presenting on managing free roaming livestock and agricultural systems. As the Mandinka says, so I'll only give him 10 minutes, all right, instead of 12. So please help us on that. Oh, yes. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, for introducing me to the plenary. Good afternoon, everybody. I have my presentation on the text, but it's corrupted. By the time I arrive here, it's corrupted. It cannot be fixed for all to see. So now, I think I have the hard copy with me. I will try to make justice and try to speak to you within the time frame. And as he said, the topic is managing the free roaming livestock in agricultural system. May I remind you that in agricultural system, managing livestock, presenters have talked briefly about it. It is based on 3 principles of management. And one of them is extensive management, the other is semi-intensive management, and the other is free roaming. And I think the Director of Livestock briefly mentioned about this, and also the Director General of Research also talked little about it. But I am bringing these 3 systems in contention with the crop protection and crop production in agriculture. We all know that the effect of transhumans play a very critical role in agricultural production. Why I say this? Because it helps to utilize grazing resources across a large area of farmland. That means they produce manure for a greater area for crop production. And also there are seasonal movement of these livestock in transhumans help protect livestock also from harsh climates, and also offers an opportunity for the integration of these livestock with crop production. May I briefly say that, in general, farm animals are inadequately managed in Gambia's agricultural system, owing to the fact that animals are mostly managed on free range, as I mentioned before, an extensive system and semi-extensive system. These management systems are basically influenced by the cheap means of feeding the stock at all year round. Based on these management systems, the animals are thus allowed to roam the streets. We have seen the example that was portrayed to us by the Director General of NARI and also Dalisa. We've seen them roaming, crossing the road. And most of them are allowed to roam the streets and neighborhood in order to find food for themselves, with little or no special or consensus provision of supplements for the animals. Although commonly raised farm animals under the free-range and semi-intensive systems include, among them is on this gastric and sheep-like goats, alongside chickens constitute a lot for farm animal largely raised under these systems of livestock management. Now let's talk about the small ruminants management system under these 3 systems. The small ruminants are, however, intensively managed on a free-range extensive system, especially in the rural part of the Gambia, where crop farming dominates the agricultural practices, and with farmers keeping an average of 5 to 6 or 7 sheep and or goats. Some are even more. Under these free range systems, the animal moves about freely to feed on forage grasses and other type of grasses, which are abundantly available during the rainy season. And on the other, feed source such as leftover foods, kitchen waste, sand refuse dumps are also areas for their grazing. Hardly is the animal provide supplementary feed by their keepers during the dry season. Animal under this condition of management may, however, become destructive because the feeding is based on what is eatable. Under large ruminants management system, unlike the small ruminants, hardly is cattle kept on free-range extensive management system in the country, but largely on semi-intensive management system. A level of modification is, however, applied to the semi-intensive management system for cattle. Let's talk about the nomadic way or exclusive pastoral system under district management systems. In addition to them, the modified semi-intensive management system of cattle by herders. Other pastoral management systems commonly practiced by cattle herders in the country include the exclusive transhumans, agropastoral systems. The exclusive pastoral practice or nomadic pastoral practices entails sole management of this type of life. The exclusive pastoral is to do and not to grow crops, but simply depend on sales of the ruminants, dairy products to meet their food needs. As a feeding practice, the exclusive pastoralists usually move their animals over long distances, usually through asset migration routes in search of pasture for their animals. Transhuman pastoral system entails rearing of ruminants in settlements with low level of crop production or cultivation. The transhuman pastoral normally often have a permanent home, but instead they go either internally within the country, or they cross the border to other countries for their pastoral needs. The agro-pastoral system within these three systems also helps to entail conscious crop cultivation for both home consumption and marketing purposes, alongside their real cattle management. In conclusion, I also agree with the recommendation that was made by the Director General, Livestock Department, and also the Director General, Agricultural Research. We need to integrate the system, but for effective management of transhumans. For us, on crop production, we will focus on land use management techniques to ensure that there is balance between transhuman and crop production. This will reduce a lot of trouble, it will reduce a lot of conflict in our society, and it will ensure that both sides have their livelihood being protected. The integration of policies with regards to integrated agricultural system in this country has to depend fully on the policies that are coming from the three major departments under the Ministry of Agriculture. And these policies has to be harmonized. Yes, we have policy regarding agriculture and natural resources policy, which we think harmonization is undergoing, and we think that will provide a platform for the needs of all these departments in terms of implementation of their policy that might not overlap with the other, so that it is implemented in tandem with our development priorities and also our departmental requirements as a department to function.
30 seconds.
I thank you very much for your attention.
Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you very much, DDG, for that presentation. I'll now call on the next presenter, Mr. Musa Sow, the president of NACOFAC, National Coordination Organization of Farmer Associations, the Gambia. He will be presenting on free roaming livestock and impacts on agricultural systems. You have a very short slide, so I hope he will not use most of the time. That we. Oh, okay.
I may be more time conscious. I have only 2 slides.
Okay, we hope so. You want to translate? Then I can do simultaneously. Okay. That will be perfect, so that we can save time. Yeah. Okay. That's it. Okay.
There are so many names given to the Fulani, the Tasman Fulani. But you don't tell us the one that you belong.
Yeah. Now move the cursor. Move this a little bit so that it will be centered.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I just intend to use half of the time being provided to do my short presentation. First of all, I must acknowledge the good role that the EBA is playing and contributing to on transhuman and any other activity of the farmers. Basically, my assignment is free roaming livestock and its impact on agricultural system, on regulated and on managed livestock. First of all, I said that trampling and destruction of the root system and crops. We know that if livestock are not managed, they are not restricted. The possibility of destroying crops and systems is very, very obvious. And the second point is it also contributes to climate change and social instability. So many speakers have mentioned this here, that the social instability is our conflict is quite very obvious, particularly if the livestock are not managed and they are not restricted. It's all going to create more social instability, which looks like conflict and so. Because if a livestock destroys a farmer's crop, there is a possibility of having to have those confrontations. That's why I said social instability. The third point is it contributes to land degradation, biodiversity lost. We know the worms, insects, and the fungals in the soil. The role they play in soil regeneration is very, very key. If the free roaming livestock are let continue in that form, it means it will cause soil degradation and biodiversity loss. The fourth point is overgrazing reduces productivity and contributes to deforestation. We all know about that. For the fact that the free roaming animals or livestock would significantly reduce our productivity because the soil texture itself, it will get to a level that it may not be able to retain water, and also the soil nutrient would also deplete significantly. And the third point is the spread of invasive species of non-native plants and weeds. Because as they are roaming, they will be grazing from one point to the other. Automatically the invasive species of non-native plants would also be dropped as they're dropping their pee and as they continue roaming from one place to the other. The other point is scarcity of water causes water pollution and feed shortage. So many speakers have mentioned it here, that the possibility of having feed shortage is very, very high. And then, there is also a possibility of having water pollution for the fact that these roaming livestock are not controlled. They move from one place to the other. It would result to those kind of challenges that agricultural production would be faced with. The other one is limited knowledge of farmers in livestock production, poor genetic potential of indigenous cattle breeds. As they are roaming, they are not controlled. Automatically, you can see, animals, because as long as you don't control them, you may not be able to control the animals they will come in contact with when it has to do with mating from one animal to the other. So those genetic species, you cannot control them. The other one is overgrazing reduces the input of the soil organic. Like I said, as they are roaming, they're not controlled. Obviously, there will be soil degradation in terms of the roaming results of what the animals are doing. So as a result, you see that the soil organic matters because the plant biomass is available. Very little plant biomass will be available. As a result, then that overgrazing will also significantly affect crop production. Can you go up, please? The next one is, I said, reduce water ground cover, and which would expose the farm or agricultural lands to wind and storms. So as long as the ground cover is loosed, the chances of wind and storms affecting agricultural production is very, very high. The next one is native vegetation is consumed faster than it can regenerate. We all know about that. As long as there is no controlled grazing, these are obvious things that we can easily see happening. The next one is incur economic cost as livestock thefts or lose. Meaning that as long as we don't control our animals, the chances of dwellers, encouraging into our loose animals and also cereals is very high. That's why I said, there's usually incur economic cost as thefts and also loss is also possible. Constitute a public health risk to the inhabitants. Meaning that from wildlife species to humans, so many people have mentioned it here, that the possibility of having to transmit from animal to humans is very, very high. The excessive animal waste causes acidity. We know about that. As long as we don't control our livestock, the possibility of having to have soil acidity is very high. Because as they are roaming, they will be dropping their waste. As they drop their waste, to an extent that it may be too much for a plant to grow because it will be too acidic. And I also put up some recommendations. The first recommendation I said is the political support. We need some kind of political support to be able to control this free livestock roaming. The first one is political support, meaning education for politicians with limited knowledge on free roaming is very, very key and central, because we will have to have policies that are responding. We need to have policies that are going to be enforced. So the people who are developing those policies must be informed and know exactly the effect and the challenges of the free livestock roaming. The second point is reforestation to reduce erosion. Like I said, there is need to have as the soil in the ground texture is losing, there's also need to see how we can regenerate to create some kind of regenerative agriculture. That is, we need to have some kind of control mechanisms to make sure that the soil regenerates itself. And one way of doing that is through reforestation. The third recommendation is locally based education programs. We need to have a continuous sensitization program where the public and the people that are concerned who own these animals need to be informed and they know the challenges that it causes to agricultural production, which is very, very key. And the other recommendation is removing all free roaming livestock and introduction of tax. It's important. We need to see how we can create policies that will support for people for people to be able to control these animals and then and control them in a way that is either we will use them by introducing deterrent kind of factors, like for example, there is need to see like so many people have mentioned it here, there are free roaming animals all over West Coast. There is need to be able to control them. They are not only obstructing traffic, but then the people feed food are also destroyed as a result of their free roaming. The next one is create fence of areas. It means we need to create fences where we can introduce grazing parks or areas that are going to be on rotational grazing from one point to the other, and then you can change to the next one. Or we can introduce a subsidized fencing or feeds for these people who own these animals. Provide training for livestock owners. There is also need to see how we can also provide training for people who own this livestock and people who feel that they can also contribute to controlling of those livestock or reducing the destruction that the livestock may also cause. Planned period of grazing deferments. Like I mentioned, there are possibility of creating deferments, meaning you create fences from one place, if they finish, for 1 month in one particular fence, and the next month you can move to the next one, it can continue in that form. So to allow the other one to regenerate as before they get back to that particular portion or area of grazing. There's also need to do some kind of monitoring and data collection, meaning that before we could develop policies around this, we need to see how we can conduct baseline surveys to be able to ascertain exactly what the impacts of these free roaming animals on our agricultural production before we could develop those policies. There's also need to see how we can also create some kind of periodic vaccinations to reduce the transmission of diseases from livestock to human beings. Basically, these were the short 2 slides that I wanted to share with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sow, for that brilliant presentation. I will now call on Mr. Chernogay, Principal Forestry Officer, Head of Participatory Forestry Management Unit, Department of Forestry. He will be presenting on transhumance and forestry management in the Gambia, opportunities and challenges. Mr. Gay, you're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I would like to register our deep appreciation to this important gathering. Important in the sense that if you look at the theme given to the Department of Forestry, that is forestry, transhumance and forest management in the Gambia. I think that is very key. And also, of course, I will go through the presentation, but I'm going to be very brief because most of the issues captured in our presentations were already dealt with. But nonetheless, we'll discuss some very relevant issues that are key in terms of transhumance and as well forest management. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our veteran foresters here who have retired but not tired. The likes of Mr. Fode Bojang, Mr. Almami Damfa, Mr. Abdullah Danso, I think having them in the room alone add value to what we are doing, and also that has given us fire to be able to stand in front of you and share a few things with you. Thank you. It's important that as a department, people to know what we are doing. Of course, a lot of discussions has been made, but for us as an institution, we are the technical arm of government that is mandated by law to manage the forest resources of this country. It doesn't only stop there. We are also mandated by law to coordinate the implementation of the forest policy and as well the forest strategy and action plan. So it's important that we know that. If you look at the presentation, it's good that we know what the objective of our policy is. Knowing our mandate, of course, we are mandated to manage the forest resources and also coordinate the implementation of the policy. But now our overall objective for the 1998 policy was to put at least 30% of the total land area under forest management. And out of that 30%, we intend to transfer 200,000 hectares of forest to be from state to community ownership and management. I think it's important to note that. Yes. Aside that, we have some specific objectives, as you can see. Some of them are technology transfer, because a lot of the speakers talk about technology. But it's already in our policy to ensure that we transfer technology to decentralized structures and as well develop indigenous technology of the local people. I think that is very key. Apart from the technology transfer, we need to promote. We will be promoting also efficient and user-friendly, how to call it? We'll be promoting efficient and multiplier effects. This is part of our policy. We also intend to, it's part of the policy, to strengthen the institutional capacity of the department and as well non-state actors, and also to ensure we create multiplier effects. We create multiplier effects to forest resource management and also to the domestic and to domestic management of forest resources. Okay, just move. Let me just skip that. Okay, just go. Go. Those are, yeah, just continue. Okay, let me just go to that point straight. Okay, those were just the specific objectives, as you can see. Now, we are all talking about livestock production, upscaling the production of livestock, but it's also good we know the status of our forest. Because every 10 years, Forestry Department carry out a national forest assessment. And in 1998, one was conducted, and the total forest area of the country stands at 525,000 hectares. A similar one was done in 2010. And the result shows that the forest area has degraded to 423,000 hectares, meaning the country has lost about 97,000 hectares of forest within a space of 10 years, which is very alarming. And all the transhumance we are talking about, all the grazing we are talking about, largely depend on our forest cover. So it's important that we take note of that. Okay. Okay. Okay, come down. Good. Aside that, we also developed some management concepts. When we started the development of the policy also has come up with some management concepts. The likes of forest fire management concept. We also have the participatory forest management concept. We also have forest communication concept. And we have natural resource conflict management concept. So these are all concepts that are being backed by the policy, and it's good to know that this is actually what is happening. So these are the good. Move a bit. Yes, okay. Okay. Aside the concepts, of course, we have some forest categories. It's good that we differentiate the different forest categories because people wouldn't know whether this is a forest park or a community forest. But at least the different forest categories we have are forest reserves. These are forest areas where you have forest parks and no, state forest. State forest is the main one, under which you have forest parks and forest reserves. Apart from that, you have community forest, you have private forest, you have community control state forest. All those are different categories of forest that we have in the country. And we also have national parks and nature reserves, which is normally under the Department of Parks and Wildlife. 3 minutes? Then we move. Okay. I think I'll go to the challenges then. Okay, having all this in place, now we'll definitely go to the main challenges. Let's go to the challenges. We all know transhumans are twofold. The ones coming from outside the country, and there's another one that is moving from one region to the other. But all these have series of challenges that they pose to forest management. The first one is uncontrolled movement of these animals and also uncontrolled grazing. Because when they are moving, there's no control. Even the communities that have their community forests or the forest officers that are managing the forest parks and other forest reserves cannot control them. So there's uncontrolled movement of these animals. There's also complete trampling. They either browse or trample on the wrong regeneration or the planted stock. Because wherever you do planting, when they are moving, they don't distinguish whether to say this is a planted area or whatsoever. They just trample and also browse along as they move. Okay? Apart from that, they will also be browsing. There's also trimming. Like normally these herders, those transhumans, they will either go to the forest, get to the mature trees, prune everything, either the mature tree or mother trees. They will trim everything to give it to their livestock. I think that is also another challenge. Apart from that, apart from the pruning and the trimming, no, move, right. Just move, right. Because the recommendations are more important. Okay, those are just some of the challenges. I just highlight on the recommendations that we have come up with. Go to recommendation. Like the recommendations we have given. Of course, Lalisa has presented that an assessment was done, a study was done, but actually, does it capture the whole country? So it's important that we carry out an impact assessment of this transhuman issue across the country, in all the regions, so that we'll know the impact on our forest ecosystem, on our livestock, on agriculture. I think that is very important. After doing that, we need to develop an integrated management strategy, which is very important, so that all the players, all the relevant stakeholders that have a stake in it will definitely come together and develop that strategy. Also, we need to create awareness. There's a lot of sensitization that needs to be done to inform the people, both at the national and regional level, so that they are aware of the causes, the effects, and the challenges this transhuman face in the country. Apart from the awareness creation, of course, I believe every sector has your policy and your regulation. Enforcement of our national laws, which is very key. That is a recommendation. Apart from that, it's good also we share the experience. I remember during the CRDFE project, there was an agreement signed between the region of CRR and the region of Kafring on transhumance. I think it's important we go back to some of those documents, look at them, review them, and see what we put in, what we remove, because that is going to help a lot. Discussing it at national level is very important, but leaving the people that are coming, involving their authorities, I also think is very important. And the last one is about the Project B, because forestry was part of the Project B. It was an implementing partner. So I think it's important the conventions that were developed in some of those districts to be looked at to see how we're going to upscale it so that it will be now a national issue. Basically, those are some of the issues that we wanted to share with you. We thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gay, for that presentation on opportunities and challenges. We will now call on the next presenter, Dr. Musaba, Livestock Management, University of the Gambia. He will be presenting on towards policies and strategies in managing transhumance in the Gambia. Dr. Ba, you're welcome. Okay, you also have 10 minutes.
Yes, less than 10. Thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. My name is Musaba, School of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, University of the Gambia. My assignment actually is towards policies and strategies in managing transhumance in the Gambia. My question is, which areas are used for grazing in this country? Is it the forest or which areas? That's my question to everybody. Can somebody volunteer? Why? And traditionally, if you look at the word grazing, actually you cannot graze in the forest, in a proper forest by the definition of FAO. Because there are a lot of canopy and the understory cannot generate enough grass for grazing. So why is this happening? Please, let's move to the next slide. So some of these things have already been highlighted. I will just throw light to some. That's why transhuman? Because they need feed and water, which is no longer available where they were finding it. They have to move to another place. These things have become inadequate at certain times of the year, which made it a seasonal movement. Like during the rainy season or at this time of the year, you can always find enough forage all over. In most of the places, rather. But when it comes from the map we saw, they now start moving around January to other places. This is attributed to climate change, that is low rainfall, increased temperatures, and increased human population, which results to farm settlement being encroached. And then when farm settlements are encroached for living, the farms will be moved to where the pasture production areas where animals used to graze. And when that happens, now the animals will move into the forest. So this is a trend. Increased livestock population. Obviously, when livestock increases, that is mainly due to a lot of factors. With the improvement of animal health care, they have done very well. Diseases like rinderpest and partly now PPR is going down. Livestock population is increasing. Therefore, the pressure on the land is also increasing. low voluntary livestock offtake. You know, traditionally we Fulas, we love the animals. We don't want to part from them. So obviously we don't sell. So that's another factor. Poor grazing management. Like when I was young, we used to graze animals, cattle. We moved to one area and convert our animals within that area. So that area will be grazed completely and other parts will not be grazed. When that happens, during the dry season, the same place, the animals have to return to that place because the other area, bushfires will burn everything. But the grazed area will not be burned as the other part. Next slide, please. So effects of transhuman. These things have been mentioned by most of the other speakers, like competition over natural resources, conflict between herders, yes, conflict between herders themselves and even herders and crop farmers. I was in Ghana, I was doing my research, and the area I went, even some of my colleagues were telling me, look, Fulas are not good. They even come here and rape our women and, you know, these Fula herders. These were, sorry for that word, these were the words they were telling me. When I did my research, I found that these people, when they first came, they were chased by the Ghanaians. And they were chased away. The second time they came, what did they do? They went to the chief, the local government authorities, and gave them a lot of money. And they were given way to come in. When they came in, they started inviting their friends, their relatives, and that is how they moved into Ghana. Okay. There are also diseases, these things comes with diseases, and the pressure on the land also changes the biodiversity. Because the living area of a lot of things are destroyed, and obviously changes come. You have plants which we call the degreasers. The palatable ones will first be grazed, and then the degreasers will intrude, and later the invaders will come. And these are the invaders we find in most of our lands. That is what is provoking the animals to move into the forest areas. However, there are benefits. That is fertilizing the croplands, as mentioned by previous speakers, provision of protein in the form of milk for the most vulnerable people, that is women and children. Next, please. So how to be better manage domestic and cross-border transhuman practices in the Gambia? One, we have to identify the route. Where do they pass? What is the route? Like in domestic and, sorry, there should be domestic border crossing, okay? Like in West Coast region, I believe they mainly move into Casamas, instead of Casamas coming inside. Okay, if you go to the North Bank, it is the Senegalese that come in. If you go within Nyamina Dankunku area, if I don't know whether this trend still continue, but in those years, people from Bansang area move to Nyamina, and the people in Nyamina move into the swamps. So those who came from the other part stay in the upland, and the indigenous one move into the swamps where they graze. Unfortunately, I used to visit those areas. What they do burning and the regeneration. After being there for some years, I found that these grass, where they used to settle, they are now moving deeper. I told them, you don't know what you are doing. My first year, I found you here. 2 years later, 3 years later, at the end of some years in the future, what will happen? Unfortunately, things were not reported to get to that. Then, let us identify the key players. Who are those? That is the livestock and crop farmers. Before you draw any management tool, you must know what are you dealing with, the resources. Then the livestock extension workers, whether crops or village heads, village development committees, ward development committees, government officials, local government officials, councillors, members of parliament. At least if we are able to identify these people in each community, it will help us when we want to draw any policy or program that may be sustainable. Next, please. Strategies to promote sustainable and more resilient practices compatible with local context. This could be better achieved by close collaboration with the following: livestock or herders and crops. Why did I put that asterisk? In my invitation, I saw participant list third and second to last were these people, that is farmers. We are trying to solve farmers' problem. And in the invitation, they came almost last. Extension workers who are dealing with them also came almost last. When we want to decide for them and give it to them, they will just tell us it's your project at the end of the day. So we also have to collaborate with what? Decision and policy makers, chiefs and governors. As I mentioned, the case in Ghana, everything can happen anywhere. So we have to invite these people. These are policymakers. Without them, we cannot do much. And there is one funny thing. Extension workers, sometimes we underrate them. But what they see and what they can communicate is very important. Because they are daily with the farmers. Even in some workshops, you always see the same faces. The same faces. Are they sending the message back? And who are the people active on the ground? We need to know all these things. But the extension worker may be very lucky to see those who are active on the ground. I share a small experience, if you permit me. I used to go to some villages. When I call for meeting, like the village head will ask me, Musa, what is the agenda? When I say this is the agenda, if it is something of beneficial, he will call some people and then tell them, okay, when they come, we sit and then we choose. You just first mention Dr. Ba. Nobody will object. You just wait for some time and then mention Dr. Ba. But when it is labor, when they call, they will just select other people. These are the people who can make impact and sustainable things when they are selected. But unfortunately, they hardly come in such forum. Okay, village. Okay, next slide, please. Transhuman in West Africa is about 70% of cattle. I think most of these things have been. So to establishment of, this is the way forward. Establishment of livestock farms in training institutions. You know, once we don't have these farms where we can demonstrate and show farmers to come and learn and see what is happening, it will be very difficult for us to convince them. The university does not have a livestock farm. Department of Livestock Services, if I'm right, still they don't have a farm. Dr. Caesar, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's only, what I mean, cattle farm or small ruminant center with animals. Oh, okay, then that's great. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you very much. Then, while at least they also, I knew they are having some area, some livestock. UDG is not having any livestock animal, no farm where we can demonstrate. So at least with those farms, if available, farmers can learn what we are telling them in theory. They can go there and find these things happening. Okay. Creation of local and regional groups for transhuman monitoring and conflict resolution. One of the speakers mentioned this thing here. 1 minute, okay. So identification and protection of rangeland resources through proper grazing methods, reseeding. This can be done in collaboration, I believe, with this project, if it is part of them. Establishment of pastures and use of feed conservation techniques. You know, when we have these farms, these conservative techniques like silage making, hay, can also be done there. The farmers can come and see what is happening. And they can see that this thing is not a mere theory, it can happen. But today, if you tell me, as a livestock farmer, I have 100 herds, prepare a silage for them. Hey, how can I keep all those? But at least he can keep for the vulnerable ones. Okay, next slide. Importance of grass root stakeholder participation. This was a review of 5 past rangeland development projects implemented in the Gambia, going back to the 1980s. Showing the issues emanating from inadequate inbuilt of sustainable mechanisms into the projects at the design phase as the key factor that impacted most on past rangeland development projects in the Gambia. These issues mainly determine the level of community acceptance of the project and the extent of community involvement in the management of the facilities provided after the project phase. If the communities are not part of the project from the onset to any level, at the end of the project, they will say, is your project, Abba. Thank you very much for your kind
Thank you very much, Dr. Musa Asba, for that presentation. I'll now call on the only officer in our midst, Superintendent Bakar Njai, Gambia Immigration Department. He'll be speaking on legal system framework around cross-border transhumance in the Gambia. Let's give him a round of applause, sir. Welcome, sir. You have 10 minutes.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, rather. My name is Superintendent Bakar Njai from the Gambia Immigration Department under the legal office. Okay, we are just informed just lately, yesterday, that I supposed to come here and give presentation regarding to this. The take of immigration is on this issue is legal system framework around cross-border transhuman in the Gambia. Anyway, immigration have a take in this. It's very important for us to be a stakeholder in this. Because any country you go, the first people that you see is the immigration department. Immigration officers rather. So in this, we are talking about people that we are dealing with, not animals. So what are the requirements for these people to come into the Gambia? That's the first thing we ask ourselves. One, whether these people, they have fulfilled the immigration criteria or immigration formalities to enter in the Gambia. So if that is not the case, then we ask ourselves again, why are they coming into the country? So because of, we know that within this sub-region now, we have signed so many protocols. ECOWAS protocols are there and other conventions. As much as we are dealing with these people, we have to be careful of how to handle them. So when they don't fulfill the immigration requirements, then we'll come into refusal for them to enter into the Gambia. And because by looking at the geographical location of our country, we are surrounded by Senegal. So our immigration doesn't have that capacity to be in all these porous borders. So in this case, the only thing that we can do, they recognize borders. If they fail to go to immigration officers to make sure that they fulfill their immigration requirements, they're able to sneak and go into the porous border, then immigration officers, whenever they are seen, they will be charged with immigration offenses or immigration violations. And in this, they can be charged whether entering Gambia without pass or permit. That is under the section 6, subsection 1 of the Immigration Act. So in this case, they can be prosecuted. So it is also difficult. Sometimes you may use immigration offenses to charge these people, then intervention may come. Because we are within West Africa, we signed this ECOWAS protocol on free movement and other things. So we have to be much careful when we are dealing with them. So in this case, immigration has a very important role to play, but it is also difficult. Difficult in the sense that we cannot be in all these porous borders. And it will be difficult for them to come through the authorized route. So the only route that they may use, to my understanding, it will be in the porous borders. because when you look at the geographical location, the southern side, the northern side is very porous. So the recognized borders are only Jiboro, Nyamanar, Katong, Daslame, Keri Ayub, Jara Soma, Katong, and just to name few. So by looking at them, by looking the way these people they come into the Gambia, these Fulanis or these cattle herders. So it's difficult for us to see them. Where is the collaboration? That is the problem now. So the only legal framework that immigration department can do is their requirements, whether they have clearance, whether they require visa, whether these people, the country they are coming from, they require visa to enter the Gambia, whether they require clearance to enter the Gambia. If that is so, we don't have problem with them. We have to ask them whether they also fulfill certain criteria for them to enter. Then we can control their movement. Perhaps we may give them a minimum days of 7 days to stay in the country. If that is allowed, then they have to come to the Director of Immigration for another 7 days. Then, if that is allowed, then they have to be resident. That is meaning that they have to come and regularize their stay based on ECOWAS protocols. So this is my take in this, because we have little to say about this. It's purely dealing with the animals and other things. So for that of the side of immigration, crossing the border, that is the only requirement that we need from the people that are coming in and out of the country. Because normally they don't come through airport or whatever, but they come through land borders. So this is the area. Thank you for all on this.
Thank you, officer. I give you a salute. I don't know whether it's a correct salute or not. Thank you for your presentation and for your time. I will now call on the only female presenter among Miss Fatou Jiba, young farmer. Right, she's representing on managing free roaming livestock for improved crop production in the Gambia. Please, let's give her a round of applause. After her, we will have only one more presentation. Please bear with us. And it's like tomorrow is Friday. We all know Friday is a short day. So we would want to compress the presentations tomorrow. We finish on or before Juma prayer. So let us try as much as possible and see what we can do with today's top 8 presentations before we close. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Like somebody mentioned here, it's not about the cow, but the how. We know your importance in the economy and also to the environment. I'm a farmer from a farming community, but one man's livelihood should not be at the expense of another. We all know how hard it is to till the land, to grow, and to see your products, that your hard work is about to be paid. Then an animal from nowhere comes and invade your farm and eat everything. I shed tears the day it happened to my farm. And the communities that I live in, they are farmers. They're vegetable garden. Women have to get up as early as 5 o'clock to go to the garden, and they leave at 7 because they are close to Abuko, and they're afraid if they don't, cows will come in and eat their produce. It's so heartbroken, and it's discouraging farmers. Thus, it's resulting to unemployment, and also is threatening the food security of the country. Because you're important, we believe we all need to work together to make Gambia a better place, because agriculture is our backbone. But this cannot happen. All of us need to come together to improve what we have. So because of that, we come with strategies on how to manage free roaming animals and also to improve crop production. First, we are doing it for the vegetable gardeners. We can do it for the cattle rearers. We have space in the community. Alcalos are here, chiefs are here. Let's create space for these cattle rearers. The space should not be just open to them. Let the government invest in it. Let it be properly secured. We have facilities there where these farmers we can build their capacity. They use new technologies, just like hydroponics and growing fauna, growing belly. In 7 days, they can have feed for their animals. With the hydroponics, we can recycle water. Even us, the farmers, we can do it. We're recycling the water as farmers. We will provide enough water for the animals because they move because they don't have it. If they have it, they won't move. We also need the government to come in this with their policies. When it comes to how many number of people manage cattle or animals moving from one place to another. I live at Lamen, close to Abuko. Sometimes you see almost 50 cattle moving with only one person, and you just have a rice field beside Abuko. The guy moving with it, he cannot manage it. And before you know, they're in somebody's rice field. We also need collaboration between the ones growing vegetables and the ones rearing cattle. My farm, I have waste. All I do, I turn it to compost. But if we can collaborate, I can give it to the cattle person as food, and he or she can give me the cow dung, the sheep dung as manure for myself. To improve crop, we need the government to help farmers with proper fencing. Yes, you're doing your best with the wire gas that you're giving us. But mind you, I have it. What goats does is they jump over. Or they climb. Sometimes I'm like, are these human? Because they find way to penetrate it. But when we have proper fencing for these gardens, with proper gates, we need not discuss about this. Because the animals are important. They're giving us manure for our forests to regrow again. Let's think of the plants that we are planting in our forests. We just don't want them today. We want them for the future. Farmers also need to look into other farming methods like food forests. You can have your vegetables and your tree. Again, your branches can be given as feed to the goats. You are improving your crops. You are improving somebody's livelihood. Again, farmers need to be trained. Yes, it's tradition. But with the recent climatic condition, we have to do something or we won't have nothing. You are grazing. They are telling you that water is scarce. The heat is too much. Plants cannot grow. Think of ways of growing your own crops. Think of ways of feeding your land, your crops rather. We also need as farmers, because this is a problem that all of us need to do as vegetable farmers. Let's look at the opportunity of vertical farming. With vertical farming, you can grow less in a bigger space. Even in Banjul, you can have a big garden and you'll be feeding people without cutting any tree. Or even have to poison somebody's animal, because it's happening at Lamen Daranka. The women couldn't take it. They put pesticides in water, leave it for the animals. When they eat their produce, they go and drink it, they die. It almost caused chaos in Daranka. The last rainy season, Daranka is full of land. They did not grow. When I asked, they said, why invest money in it? Let me use it to feed my family. Because when I grow it, goats and cattle will just come and eat it. It's not the way. I've never knew that there were tracks for animals. Let's utilize it. Either making it virtual or using technology, that they will be able to know that this is a place for growing vegetation, and this is the pathway you use to get to where you want to. I'm so glad we have a project solving the problem with water issue and others. But it's also important we look at how we reach farmers. This is a good gathering. But how many farmers are here? When we have a platform where in every meetings that happen, whether on the Ministry of Agriculture or an NGO coming in, either is an app that can translate whatever is being said here to local farmers. It will reach many people. Then I will know that yes, it's possible. As a community, we can create water for the goats. We can give them food for them to go. If the government cannot reach us as a community of Daranka or any other community, we can come together as animals owners and vegetables. We have put all our resources together and do the same kind of project for our own benefit. We want to do it. We know the government is doing it, but we are taking the initiative to make sure we do it ourselves before it's too late. Again, we plead to the government to help us in terms of getting us the resources that we need to grow what we need. Let farmers be on the drawing boards of projects. Let farmers be the one running these projects. We are not saying you, the experts, are not doing what is best. You are. But somebody taking the ownership of a project that he knows his livelihood is on it, he will do his best to make sure it's sustained. And with all of this together, we won't have the problem of goats roaming. We can leave them, let them roam, let them feed on what they want to feed. Because our forests are being grown on trees that goats don't eat, that cattle don't eat. But under it, they have grasses to eat because they are giving manure to that place. And the trees will help bring rain to us. This is all I have to say.
Let's give a round of applause for that brilliant presentation. It's quite an experience. It's like we have lamented more on the house. So I think the roadmap aspect that we'll be dealing with tomorrow, most of the house he brought up will be put into consideration. I will now call on the last presenter, Mr. Ibrahim Jallo. As I may understand, is the president of Nalowa. Is he around? Mr. Ibrahim Jallo? Oh, you are presenting for him, okay. He's presenting on effect of transhumance in the Gambia. That's the last presentation for the last presentation. We also have presentation from extension agents, CRR, North, CRR, SAR, URR, LRR, NBR. Are they around? Each of them just 2 minutes, so that tomorrow we just have to go into tomorrow's topics. Do we have them around? Extension agents. Who do we mean by those people? Okay, yes, please, 10 minutes. Huh?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Modu So. I'll be presenting on behalf of the National Livestock Owners Association of the Gambia. Waiting for my presentation to be on the display. Sure, yeah. Okay, I think before the presentation will come, I think I will like to thank the lady that was here, because I have seen most of the people that we are previously talking, we are talking about effect of livestock, the negative effects. Most of the people highlighted on livestock are doing this, livestock will do this, livestock are doing that. But before we start with that, why do we need to ask ourselves, why are these livestock doing that? People will just quote from history that they will tell you in the previous years, the Gambia used to have livestock routes, enough gracelands. So if these gracelands are taken from the livestock owners, from the livestock farmers, where do you expect these livestock to go again? I think we need to ask ourselves these questions. If you farm on a stock route, where do you expect the livestock to move on? These are the questions that we need to ask ourselves always. It is the farmer, the crop farmer, who is trying to take away the land of the livestock farmer, or it is the livestock farmer who is trying to take away the lands of the crop farmer. If we ask ourselves this question, at least we will be able to find a solution between crop farmers and livestock farmers, and we will also be able to address the conflicts that are existing within the country in terms of competition for productive agricultural lands between crop and livestock farmers. Okay. So, like we are saying, when you look at the Gambia, transhuman is mostly characterized by the seasonal movement of livestock, like many people highlighted before. And mostly, what are they looking for? They are looking for grassland, stock routes. But why are they looking for this? Because they have been in places where you know that the stock routes have been blocked, they have been used for crop farming, or in fact they are no more suitable. And most of the time what happens in other communities is not only about even being blocked, but it's about when the animals stay. We all know that if animals are kept in a pen for so long, that land is very fertile. And that is the same land that is needed by the crop farmer. So when he needs that land, now he will bring in conditions and he will try to move out the livestock to another area. And this will leave the livestock farmer with no land again. And they have to start moving and moving. And this is what leads to most of the people transhuman into different areas of the country or even outside of the Gambia. So, and this is affecting us unknowingly. When we are talking about what can we do, what are they doing, how can we control this livestock. But let's look at how do we maintain this in the business perspective also. We can proceed. Now, this is the movement. Mostly we talk about moving livestock from one place to the other, and it's normally a strategy for us also to adopt both to the environmental factors and even the human factors. We are only, when the environment comes, we know there are certain places we cannot be within those areas because of the environment, but in other areas it's human factors, because people, now we all know that crop production is on the increase. If crop production is on the increase and the crop farmer was able to stay with the livestock farmer and now he wanted to expand his farm, where is he likely to move? He is likely to expand his farm to the stock routes or the grasslands. And then where do you expect the livestock farmer to be? You are pushing him to move out of his territory. And that is also leading to other conflicts. So this is mostly what we need to look at. Do we need to expand the crop farmers' production to that of the livestock farmer, or do we need to at least establish stock routes or places for the livestock to stay and we all stay peacefully for the mutual development of our agricultural sector? Because when we talk of agriculture, we are mostly talking about crop and livestock. But this is always a question that I ask. I will say, an average Gambian cannot define agriculture. This is mostly happening. Because when we talk about agriculture, even from the ministry, we are only seeing one direction, crop, crop, crop. Where is livestock? This is the problem with agriculture. When you say agriculture, oh, people will just say crop farmers. The livestock farmers are left behind. When projects are designed, when it is 100%, you look at only 20% might be for livestock. 80% is for crop. Where is the definition of agriculture? An average Gambian, you will agree, cannot define agriculture. Hence, so what does, in introduction again, it is, within the, this is a, you are going back, you have gone, okay, yeah. So the nature of transhuman in the Gambia is mostly, we move from one area to the other. Many people highlighted, it's either within the country or outside the country. But when you look at this within the country, mostly what is going out or what is coming is also affecting the business. Since my topic is on business, in the area of business, so we'll also look at it in that way. So in the northern part of the Gambia, when you look at the northern part of the Gambia and the northern part of Senegambia, mostly is them coming in the dry season. The Ndura people, like we normally call them, they are coming in. And they are coming into the country, also have its effects to the country's economy, and it also have certain things that it's also leading to. But our southern part of the country also mostly, only if not Jara and Kiang, the other parts are also likely to move out of the Gambia. So it is this way coming in, and this way likely going out of the country. So this is what is happening mostly, and it is always seasonal. Okay? So it's movement within, so why transhuman? This is what we are looking for. If we cannot have it in our country, or if we cannot have it within our area, we have to move. If we don't have water, The water where we are supposed to be, where the available water that we used to have 10, 20 years is not there. What will we do? Maybe it's due to climate change, we are not having enough water. Or at times, even the area that have been there is now being used for other purposes. So we have to move out of the country, or we have to move to other areas. Lack of feed, we have seen invasive growth, grasses coming in, okay? Stock routes, we don't have movement areas to move, and we also have grazelands, we don't have areas to graze our animals. So what do? We ourselves are forcing the Gambia. The census of the Gambia has shown us that our cattle are not increasing, but rather they are going down. And why? It is not that Gambians are not having livestock. We are having livestock, but where are they? They are in Casamas. When they are counting it in the livestock of Senegal, not in the Gambia. Who is the loser? The Gambia. Where is the manure going to? Senegal. Where is the milk going for? Senegal. Where is the meat for? Senegal. So we are the losers. So we have, at least it's high time we start accommodating livestock in the Gambia, rather than always saying, let's put livestock in one place, let's put them in a pen, let's put them this way, this control and this way. Let us give the livestock what belongs to the livestock. And we know that livestock cannot live without stock root, it cannot live without grazeland, and it cannot live without the area or the management given to it. So we have to start counting on this. Next. The economic losses, we said since it is on the business perspective, now it says increase in cost of livestock. Do we know that it's because of this transhuman, our livestock prices are every day going down? A kilo of meat every year, within these 5 years, it has moved from at least that low cost now to the, it's becoming a rich man's food. Why? It's not that we are not having livestock, but most of our livestock has transhuman. So if you want to sell that livestock that has transhuman out of the Gambia, you have to go and buy it now. One, price has increased. The owner has to transport it. When he keep it in let's say within the livestock market, he has to start feeding it again. All this is added to the cost. Why do you think livestock will be cheap? Since you cannot define agriculture, the meat is going to be expensive. Okay. So meat and milk scarcity. This is the same problem we are facing. If the meat is in Senegal, the milk is in Senegal, what do you think will happen to us? We are not having it. It's out of our country. So we are the losers in it because we are not accommodating it. So we have to accommodate it. If you want price of meat to come down, if you want us to have more of organic manure, if you want us to have enough milk, we have to accommodate livestock. We find strategies, we develop strategies to accommodate livestock in the Gambia. Loss of employment opportunities. It is a great opportunity to the youths of Casamas right now when you look at the nature of the Gambia. They are being employed by our own Gambians. Why not the Gambian youths being employed by our own Gambians? But no, we are not giving them, we are not accommodating them. So they are forced to move out of the country, then they have to employ other people to do the work for them. So we economically, we are losing there also. Okay? That's loss of manure, we are losing it. Yeah? So loss of livestock also. When they move to another area, they have to learn to adapt. During that, because they cannot adapt to certain environments, they are likely to die. Okay? When you look at Kiang and Jara, they have enough land. But why do you think animals are not always going to Kiang and Jara area? Adaptation is a problem. They have the testy fly. Okay? So it is very difficult. So most likely when you move to those areas, your animals are likely to die. So you have to avoid losing your animals. So that is another thing that we are having. Cattle rustling is also another thing. When you move to Casamas, cattle rustling is another key thing. Poor adaptation, fatigue during migration, like small animals will also die on the way. Okay? And another effect on business, when you see payment for vaccinations. In Senegal, most of the farmers, they will pay for vaccinations. Somebody also told us that here, when you want your animals to drink in certain parts of other areas, you have to pay for it. It's more expensive to produce every day because we are not accommodating the animals. Okay? On vaccinated animals, in Senegal also, here in the Gambia, we are lucky to have free vaccination. But when you go to Senegal, even when, if at all, it's the government that is vaccinating, you have to pay for it. Okay? And it's by force, your animals must be vaccinated. So, but what they do, they move into the Gambia, their animals are not vaccinated, they go back. And with this, it introduced what we call the risk of diseases, because most of these animals are not vaccinated. So they'll be in and going out collecting a disease outside the Gambia, and they come with the disease inside the Gambia again. So we are at risk. Poor quality of drinking water, and more livestock deaths because of adaptation issues. Okay. So livestock also mostly lead to livestock scarcity. Hence, all these things happen. Our livestock population will be out, and we will lose livestock, because livestock, you have to go and buy it in Senegal, and they say it's Senegalese livestock, while it is that of the Gambia, and it is more expensive for us. Proceed to the next slide. Hardmans and transman vaccination. We talk about vaccination. Conflict, which is the key issue. The struggle for productive lands. Every day we are fighting. We cannot sit on our laurels to wait for what happens in other countries. We have been hearing hardmen killing each other. It is now, not later. Let us try to come together and see how best can we accommodate each other. They are cutting trees, and they are cutting further. Overgrazing and risks of diseases. All this is happening to the country. Proceed to the next one. Okay, so this is transhuman. This is what we talked about earlier on. So we need to, let's go. We already talked about this at length. So this is the last slide. So let's look at what we put there. Let's look at the quotation. It says, if I was human, I would establish my own compound and stay in one village rather than annually transhuman due to lack of food, water, stock routes, and grasslands. Who is supposed to help these animals? It is the owner. It is the human. Because if they were also human, they will not move out every year. So they are not human, but they also have a need. So we need to give them their need, and together we can give them their need for the Gambia to have its own strong livestock sector for national food security. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moriso, for that strong backup. We really appreciate your time for presenting on behalf of the President. That brings us to the end of the last presentation of the day. The next topics we have is like voice from the field. It's almost nearly 6, so we'll be closing now. But however, we want to a little bit amend the work plan for tomorrow, the program guide for tomorrow. So tomorrow when we come after the recap and registration, we will be looking at sessions, right? Extension agents, Department of Agriculture, DLS would come together and at least come up with something based on their experience on the field. CRR or CRSR, URL, RRR, then NBR, they will have one session. Then we will also have farmers from the 5 regions again, right? CRR, North, South, URR, LRR, and NBR. Farmers will also have their session. Then we also have the Chiefs Corner. From there, then we move on to, after that will be thematic working groups though. Then after which we will come up and develop the roadmap together, right? Or do we have a presentation on that already? Yeah, okay. So since tomorrow is Friday, we definitely have to work around our program guide, or else you will find it difficult to finish before we close for the day. And probably there might be few questions based on the last presentations. If you have any, let's just take few before we close. You have a, yes, sir? Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, that's an oversight though. Yeah, it's West Coast though. It's an oversight. West Coast also, I think they are here, right? So please, West Coast should also be part of the group. All right? Yes, please. And with regards to the farmers being on the list of invitees as like the position of the farmers, please let us not take it personal. They are very, very important. It's because of them that's why we are here. Somehow, somewhere, whenever you prepare a list, somebody have to come last. So it doesn't matter where their position is, but definitely they are very, very important. Because of them, we have this session. Thank you. Yes, we are taking only 3-4 questions, then we close for the day. Yes, your name, sir? Fode? The one next to you? Mustafa? Help me the mic, please. Mustafa Dumbuya next. Who is next? Question. Dr. Cisse, right? The one next to you, who? Okay, all right. Anyone else? Okay, Dr. Sanya. All right, I'm first taking for the, Mr. Fode Bojan, please. The floor is yours. Please, question and answer, not more than 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. This is just a short comment that I would like to make, Mr. Moderator, concerning the impact of livestock grazing in forest areas, not necessarily just from transhumans alone, but also from sedentary farmers, livestock owners. It is not necessarily all very bad. In fact, there are times when livestock grazing can be very, very good for forest areas. And I think we need to, as we continue our development activities, we need to bear those in mind, how to compromise this, bring a balance in a way that both sides would benefit, and not to see that livestock are going to be destroying forests all the time. It's a matter of management. The intensity of the management is what is important here. We have experimented with this thing in the Gambia during the Gambia German Forestry project, when we allowed livestock in forest parks to graze. And what we realized was that they can enhance the growth of trees, seedlings in the forest, provided you control the intensity of this. And the projects that are around may be able to help in that particular aspect. In enclosed areas, whether it's going to be a forest park, it's going to be a national park or whatever, one should be able to demonstrate the usefulness of livestock in grazing. Not only increasing the biodiversity, but they also help to break the fuel load in the forest. They create tracks and discontinuity in the fuel load, so that when the fire comes in, it slows down. So there are quite a number of other benefits that can be done, provided that it is managed properly. Just what I want to add as an addition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bojan. I think that's a very much important statement. We try to create a balance between the crops as well as the livestock, because both are really needed as far as agriculture is concerned. So therefore, the how is very, very much important. See how best do we accommodate both to increase food security. Yes, I'll next give the mic to Mustafa Dumbuya.
Okay, thank you so much I want to commend the presenters. Thank you so much, Eva, for creating this platform and also supporting extension workers on the grassroots. Away from that, I want to ask, thank you so much, Superintendent, for your presentation. I want to ask you whether there is a conflict between the ECOWAS protocol and the free movement of goods and services in the Gambia. That's my question, number one. Number two, I also want to ask the Forestry Department. What is the high cost of forest loss in this country? Is it transhuman, or is it other activities that we need to know so that there is we can deal with it judiciously and and efficiently? These are I have many other things, but I think with the time that we have, I think it is better I cut it short to these two questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mustafa Dumbuya. Who are those questions? Who are they directed to? Okay, yes, officer. Sorry, help me get the mic, please.
Okay. Hello? Are you getting me?
I think this one is louder. We can try this one.
Okay, for your question, it's very important for me to clarify that portion for you. Normally, what I know, the little I know about the law, national law supersedes protocols, that is treaties and other things. So if that, within our laws, there is a law that, is designed for that, that law will supersede about the protocols. So you cannot go with protocols while you have your domestic laws. So your domestic law supersedes that law. So that's I don't know whether I have clearly answered your point that you understand. If there is a law that, is, protecting our goods and other things, so immigration will stand beside that law than the ECOWAS protocol. What I'm trying to explain to you, for you to understand, even there is a conflict, this national law supersedes treaties. Yeah. Yes. Even the ECOWAS protocol says this, and the national law says this. You have to go with the national law. Yeah.
So you cannot, because these laws, they are taken to the National Assembly and they are domesticated and become applicable to the people in the country. So you cannot leave your national law and that supersede the protocols. So yes.
Thank you. I think Mustafa, your question is answered, right? Yes. All right, Doctor. Sorry for that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bad Moderator. Anyway, all right. I think mine is also similar. It's a question directed to the immigration officer, and it's similar to Dumbuya's question. I think during your presentation, you made mention of the difficulties in kind of controlling the herders that come with these transhuman animals. I wonder if you know about the ECOWAS protocol on transhumans and the fact that these herders or the transhuman pastoralists are provided with an international certificate an international transhuman certificate, they call it ITC, laissez-passer, whether you are aware of this, the Department of Immigration, I mean, and what do you do to kind of ensure that these farmers actually provide these things when they get into the country, for example? I know there are other local arrangements that have existed in the CRR North, for example, like somebody mentioned earlier, where parties in Kafrin and in CRR North signed an MOU where, among other things, once these transhuman herds get into the country, they are required to report to the local authorities up to the governor level, and then through that, whether arrangements have been made for you to get this information so that you can ascertain whether they have this international transhuman certificate or not. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes back to Officer to clarify. I'll get back to you, sir.
Okay. It's a very important point for us at the border. Whenever you reach at the border, the first thing that we are going to look into to check whether you have fulfilled the requirements that the immigration need to know. Despite that, you came with those documents or whatever, we need to screen still now. We have to be certified. Perhaps those documents, whether they are authentic or not, we have to make our consultation. Perhaps we may liaise with the livestock management to find out whether these documents are relevant or not. If those documents are relevant, then we have to respect the ECOWAS protocol, then to allow the person to get in. But we have to certify first, and then when we are satisfied with the procedure, then we can allow the person to. When we are not satisfied, then we have to refuse you. Yeah. Because perhaps that document may be altered. Perhaps we are not privy to have that document. So we need to make consultation with the livestock management. So that's why collaboration is very important between them and the Gambia Immigration Department to know whether these documents, the stamp that are in the document, whether it's authentic or not. Yeah. I think I have answered your question.
Okay. Okay, now give the mic to Dr. Sanya. Okay. Second to last. Someone's hand is just up.
Yes, at the beginning of the session, the first presenter said, it is not the problem of the cow, it is the how. But subsequent presentations of speakers, maybe due to the title of their presentation, it is talking a lot about roaming animals. So we are now shifting the problem to the roaming animals. But we know, it has been said that areas which were used for grazing are now being turned into farmlands or vegetable gardens. And can we now ask, can the vegetable gardens not be protected by being fenced? I know a government is doing a lot in providing a lot of vegetable gardens which are being fenced, But I also know there are people who will not want to go to those vegetable gardens. They go to their own areas to do the vegetable growing, which is actually prone to on the animal tracks. So it is a two-way problem, and we have to tackle it from preventing roaming animals and also trying to secure the vegetable gardens by proper fencing. And this is the responsibility of the farmer as much as it is the responsibility of the animal owner to keep his animals under control. I know many years ago, it is not an offense during the dry season for animals to go roaming. It is even accepted. Only during the rainy season you can herd the animals. But certain types of dry season, it is accepted that they are allowed to go free range roaming. And this is the time people grow vegetables, and this is the time when a lot of conflict comes. So it is the responsibility of those people doing vegetable gardening to also protect their vegetables by proper fencing. That's my... Yes.
Chairman, with your permission, I think that's why we are here. That cost of fencing is an issue, because fencing costs a lot of money. Money that could have been diverted to provide some other necessary inputs for the farm and the farmer. So I think in tomorrow's deliberation, we may see, we will answer the question of how and not the cow. Today we have talked about the cow. Tomorrow is about the how. On the issue of the ECOWAS protocol, I think maybe tomorrow also we need to discuss that. Most of the farmers actually they are not aware of the details of these protocols. So can we take these protocols, simplify them to the understanding of our farmers? Because the protocols are clear. The ECOWAS protocol on transhuman, the 1998 protocol on transhuman, allow the free movement of animals. So at the same time, the ECOWAS protocol on free movement of people and goods also is there. It also allows the movement of people. So it will not be strange to see a Senegalese herder come to the Gambia. But how would you come to the Gambia? I think that's what the immigration officer is saying. So it's also important that we simplify all these documents so that our own people can understand. Even if you ask some of the agriculture officials, they don't know about these protocols. Extension agents, probably some of them don't know about this protocol. How can the farmers know about them? The details in the protocol. I think it's important. The immigration also should help in this. You know, we have a national sensitization, something like that. And luckily the honorable members are here, especially those on select committee on agriculture. They are here. You know, these are simple things that we overlooked, and they are important. You know, the owners of cattle, you know, I mentioned in my presentation, these hidden owners, you know, government officials and all that, they should also know about these things so that we control animals. If we control animals, I believe, I said this before, and I will say it again, if we control animals in this country, production and productivity is going to increase tremendously. Look at in the combos here. Roadside activities is a good venture. A lot of roadside cultivation happening in the combos here. But, you know, animals will just come and eat all. You know, the lady said it here. Madam Jiva said it here. And it's painful. After spending 3 months, an animal will come and harvest for you. And then it will go and pee somewhere that you cannot even collect the manure. You know, it's sad. If it harvests for you and pee on your farm, then probably you are lucky. But it will pee somewhere that you cannot harvest the manure there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I definitely think tomorrow we will do justice to this, they call it deliberation. Tomorrow is basically the how. So let us go home and sleep over it. Let everyone come with a solution. I am seeing more hands, and I only wanted to take 4. What do? Do I close or do I? Okay, I'm taking the last 3. Last three.
Okay. Actually, sometimes we are blaming the government, but we, the beneficiaries, also as a farmer, we need to blame ourselves. Government projects come, they fence vegetable schemes 5 hectares. The sustainability plan we laid down, the government said, projects come, they said every 125% is going to be take aside for sustainability measures. Now, an example, a bed of 1 meter by 5 meter, you can able to get minimum of $500 there. So it means in every $500 or in every bed, you need to contribute $125. We come with this strategy by saying that now, instead of $125, you are going to pay $50. Now it means $75 has gone back to you. Now we said in a scheme where you have 300 people and each have only 6 beds, you contribute 50 by 6 is going to give you $300. And you have 300 people there, you are going to earn $90,000 in 4 months. That $90,000 in 4 months, if we actually sympathize ourselves, we should have to make sure that we have our cement wall over there. So when we have that one, animal will not come. So but projects will come. When you tell farmers also you contribute for sustainability development, they say, no, we are not going to do it. It's government property. At the end of the day, what people are going to say, agriculture is doing nothing or projects are doing nothing, while they have already done something. Now it is your responsibility now to make that one to be sustainable. So actually, I think we should all know that, yes, if government do this, what next can we do in order to make it sustainable? So some of these schemes, actually, they cannot blame by telling government that we don't have proper fencing after giving you a proper fencing of which serve you for more than 5 years. So now it means it's your responsibility. In 4 months, you are able to gather 90,000. In another 4 months, that's 180,000. Another 4 months, that give you 270,000. It means your yearly contribution is going to be $270,000. If you do that one for 1 year, you are going to have $810,000. That can give you a lot of things. So the problem we have in hand is we don't want to take responsibility. We always want to put everything in the hand of government. At least we should have to take that syndrome out. For me, vegetable schemes, if we have problems there, I don't blame the animal owners. I blame ourselves for not taking those initiations. Thank you.
I said a minute and you gave us 3 minutes. Thank you, Lord, for a brilliant presentation. Mustafa gave 2 questions. One of it was answered by the officer, the other one is on forestry. Please.
Thank you very much. Mustafa's second question was, what are the other factors responsible for this high deforestation rate in the Gambia? Of course, we limit ourselves to this particular topic we are dealing with, but there are several factors that contribute greatly to this high deforestation rate in the Gambia. One of them is overpopulation. We know that the population of the country is skyrocketing now, and every household would need a farmland, a place to settle and stuff like that. So overpopulation is one factor. Another important factor that is also responsible is forest fires, because studies have shown that more than half of the forest area get burned annually, which also contributes to deforestation. And another one also is the poor practice of agriculture in this country, because what used to be in the case during the colonial days and maybe after independence, people were using ox cart, donkey carts to do plowing, but now with the coming of the tractors, there's massive clearing, mechanization of agriculture that prompted many people now to go into the forest and clear. So that is also another factor. And one important factor also, which is also now alarming, that is this housing estate. There's land banking all over the country, and especially in Greater Banjul. Some of the community forest areas are being converted into housing estate now. So those are some of the factors that are definitely contributing to high deforestation rate. And if you remember, during the past regime, there was this call back to the land, Operation Back to the Land, that devastated our forest cover because people were just indiscriminately clearing forest areas. So those are some of the factors that we are responsible for deforestation in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm taking last two. Musa and Dr. Chief Jallo will close.
No, he's just been a very good moderator. Yes. He's a good moderator. So, basically, I just wanted to intervene on 2 or 3 issues. My first concern is we can talk about farmers, we can talk about livestock owners, but then the first entry point is the political will and the policy incoherence that we have experienced. You can see one particular policy would direct you in this form and the other one would direct you in the opposite form. So I think what is most central here is we need to see how, be it the ECOWAS free movement of goods and services or our domestic policies, there is need to see how ECOWAS or national government to see how they can synchronize and harmonize those policies. Because you cannot sign a protocol and say free movement of goods and services. Yes, it's very clear. But then if the national policies at certain level are considered to be one that will be observed at national level, it's also critical. My observation is we need to have some kind of a policy coherence and reduce the incoherency that is happening between policies and see how we can also harmonize those policies at one point and also engage more into policy influence that farmers are really doing at the level of government and also at the regional level. I thought I could just share those points that yes, the first thing is the farmers could be blamed, but our policies and policy makers should also critically revisit their policy and see how the policy can speak each other and speak the same language. So that at certain level, they will be able to enforce those policies. And thank you.
Harmonization of policy is really important. I will give him the mic to Dr. Jallo, Chief Jallo rather. He'll be the last to give, he'll be the last door for the day. Then after which tomorrow we hope we can all be here by 8:30. Please, 8:30 prompt we are starting. In fact, tomorrow the Ture Kunanga, what they want is here. You will have breakfast, you will have coffee break, and then you will have lunch. So but then that only depends on if we come early. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to give a live example that everybody can sleep over. In Fonyi, on a case at the Somita police station, okay, a community has been given an area for a garden. It has been fenced and it has been provided with water. Either a project or Department of Agriculture, I don't know which one did it. But some of the women did not go